Last time we discussed verse number 115. And in that verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu strongly asserted that anyone who considers the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu to be made of material nature is the greatest offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. And he further went on to say that there is no other blasphemy against the Supreme, no greater blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to state that the Lord's body is material, it's a great offense to the Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Vishnu ninda ara nahi ihara upar. That means we are equating the transcendental Lord with mundane materialism. So to put the Lord's form in that category, like ours, is such a big offense. And why does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make such a strong statement? Because the Shastras, they explain that the Lord is the source of the living entity. And the Lord's body is completely transcendental. So we will chant text 116. Ishvarera tattva jana jwalita jwalana Jivere swarupa yaise Sphulingera karna. So the Lord is like a blazing fire, and the living entities are like the small sparks of that fire. So we have heard this many times if we read Prabhupada's books or listen to his lectures. Prabhupada explains this with this example, that how when you see a blazing fire, it's so big and it seems so overwhelming. But then there are also tiny sparks that are like sort of like coming out of the fire and dropping out. So the living entities are compared to those little sparks. Now those little sparks are also fiery. Like when we come in contact with the spark, it does burn us, but it doesn't burn us to the extent, like the fire will burn us. But it does burn, it has that potency to burn. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that this is a very long purport, and Prabhupada writes that, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, welcome. Please come. So Srila Prabhupada explains that although sparks and a big fire are both fire, and both have the power to burn, the burning power of the fire and that of the spark are not the same. So why should one artificially try to become like a big fire, although by constitution he is a small spark? And then Prabhupada says that it is because of ignorance only that we want to become like the big fire. One should therefore understand that neither the Supreme Personality of Godhead nor the small spark-like living entities have anything to do with matter. But when the spiritual spark comes into contact with the material world, his fiery quality is extinguished. This is the position of the conditioned souls. So this is the main difference, that when the Lord comes to this world, firstly he comes out of his choice. And then even though he comes within Prakriti, which comes from him, but he is completely unaffected by Prakriti. And then we see that in the Lord's pastimes. Does Prakriti influence the Lord? He's able to do so many different things that violate the laws of material nature. Like, standing with a big mountain on his little finger, holding that little mountain on his little finger. And then so many other things that Krishna does that violate the laws of material nature. And it's not that the Maya can touch him, but Maya is under the control of Krishna. Whereas conditioned living entities, we are prone to becoming influenced by Maya. And that's what happens. That's why we come to this world, because we are conditioned, except for a few rare Nitya Siddhas who come, who are not under the influence of the material energy, but they come due to the desire of the Lord to deliver the conditioned living entities. Rest of us all, we are fully conditioned, to various degrees by the laws of material nature. Because we are in touch with the material world, the spiritual quality is almost dead. But because these sparks are all Krishna's parts and parcels, as the Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita, they can revive their original position by getting free from material contact. This is pure philosophical understanding. So in the Gita, Prabhupada says that the spiritual sparks are declared to be eternal. Therefore, the material energy Maya cannot affect their constitutional position. That means that Maya can have a covering influence on the soul, on the spiritual spark, but it cannot deny the eternal nature of the soul. The soul will continue and take on different forms, but the soul still continues to exist eternally. So even though Maya is covering, it cannot deny the existence of the soul. Now the question Prabhupada raises is that why have spiritual sparks at all? Why does Krishna create these little sparks? What is the need of these sparks? So anyone would like to answer? Why does Krishna create? Why does Krishna create these tiny souls?
He wants to enjoy the variety.
Okay? He wants to enjoy the variety. Yes, that's one answer. Yes.
He wants us to give a chance for us to go back to the spiritual world. The spark, as long as it is there, has the potency.
So, the question is, why does he create in the first place? Huh? Yeah, so that he already answered. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Hare Krishna. So there's one more reason that Prabhupada explains in this purport. So we all say that God is omnipotent. What does it mean? God is all powerful. So if God is all powerful, Prabhupada says the answer can be given in this way. Since the absolute personality of Godhead is omnipotent, he has both unlimited and limited potencies. Now what does this mean? That if he is all powerful and he is unlimited, so he must also have limited potencies.
That's how it will get complete. So limited becomes a subset of the.
Yes. So he says this is the meaning of omnipotent. To be omnipotent, he must not only have unlimited potency, but also limited potencies. Thus, to exhibit his omnipotence, he displays both. And he gives the example that, what's the meaning of the king if there are no subjects? So, if God is all powerful, he also, who will he control? So, he also has limited, God has unlimited control, right, and power, and then he also creates entities that have limited control and power.
So he himself is not limited in potency.
No, he is unlimited.
He creates sparks, so he creates those jivas who are limited.
Yes.
That's how he.
So that the unlimited can control the limited. Okay, so one who has unlimited power can control those with limited power. Okay.
It's a follow-up question.
So Prabhupada writes, he says that if the personality of Godhead did not possess both limited and unlimited energies, he could not be called omnipotent. If there is no one to control, there would be no meaning to the conception of the supreme controller. So there are many Ishwaras, there are many tiny lords. We all have some power to control, and we also have control, and we also have limited power, and we all have some power. Now, and that's why Prabhupada says that he could not be called omnipotent if he did not have both limited and unlimited energies. So he has both limited and unlimited energies. And unlimited is which category? Unlimited is which category?
He himself.
The Vishnu Tattva is unlimited category. Okay. And then Prabhupada quotes from the Gita, where he says, where Krishna says that I am greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. So, who's the smallest of the smallest? Yes. Prabhupada writes that he is smaller than the smallest in form of the living entity and greater than the greatest in the form of Krishna. This is a very important sutra that we can all try to memorize. This one beautiful one-liner. He is smaller than the smallest in the form of the living entity. And he is greater than the greatest in the form of Krishna. So nice.
That means smallest in the form of Paramatma. And
No, smallest in the form of the soul. Okay. How big is the soul? Ah,
One by 10,000.
yes, the tip of the hair. So it's like so minute that it's not even traceable. It's not visible, it's not traceable.
So when we are saying that he is smaller than the smallest in terms of the jivas, the living entities, so that means it is his energies which he
Yes.
not himself, because otherwise it will become the jiv and Bhagwan are the same. Because
Yeah, so they are the same, and yet they're different. They're different in what?
quality.
Yes, quantity. Yeah. But
Qualitative
essential nature is the same. Okay. So actually, this simultaneously one and different. They're one with the Lord, yet they're different in quantity. This is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he synthesized all these, so many different concepts, presented by our acharyas.
So it has to be understood in a context. Otherwise, just by reading this statement, it might seem that the Jiva and God are same. If we just read like the living entities are smaller than the smallest, I mean Krishna is.
Yeah, so here if we see that, yes, there is oneness, there is also difference, because God is so great and we are so small. So there is a difference. It's not one.
Actually, when we talk about Paramatma and Krishna, potency both are same. There is no difference, I think.
Yeah, so Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna. Okay, it's not exactly, the Bhagwan.
That's why
So
we relatively can understand that Jiva is minute of the complete whole, like a small particle.
Minute, yes.
Minute of the complete whole. Whereas
Recording in progress.
Paramatma, as Guruji was saying, that Krishna is as small as Paramatma, but Paramatma in potency is same as Krishna.
don't confuse. Now, don't bring in the. What is it saying over here? The Lord is greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest. Now, Prabhupada is saying he's smaller than the smallest in form of the living entity. He's not talking about Paramatma. Paramatma, in fact, is much bigger. It's explained in the Bhagavatam. I'm forgetting how many inches the Paramatma is. No? Yeah, so
It's just the size of this thumb.
yeah, so it's much bigger than the
The
tiny soul. Okay.
Example is gold ring and gold mine.
Yes. So okay, so don't get confused here. That the God is the living entity. Yes, God is, in one sense, He is the living entity, because the living entity is non-different from the Lord. Mame amsa. So it's a part and parcel of God. Okay. So it's not different. But it is part and parcel. It's part. And the second reason, that which you all said, right, why the Lord creates this tiny part, is because the omnipotent Lord displays His pleasure potency as the living entities. So for the exchange, He is by nature the reservoir of all pleasures, and because He wants to enjoy pleasure, there must be energies to give Him pleasure or to supply Him impetus for pleasure. This is the perfect philosophical understanding of the absolute truth. Okay. Yes, Mataji.
Suppose here, I'm just trying to understand that he's saying that the sparks are created like the living entities.
Yes, so the sparks eternally exist. Just like the fire, it's not like, the fire creates a spark. It's
But the pleasure potency that we're talking about is in the form of the spiritual entities around him, right? Because we are not. it is
yeah,
not
but that is our original position.
Yes, so
Right.
the pleasure potency, basically he is looking for pleasure with these spiritual entities, not with us. We are fallen.
So here, why do you say pleasure potency? There's nothing about pleasure potency
The
here.
omnipotent Lord displays his pleasure potency as the living entities.
He displays His pleasure potency in the sense that because He desires to have pleasure and enjoy pleasure,
That is with the spiritual beings, not with us.
no, even with the living entity, right? Living entity in our original form,
In our original form,
yeah, yes.
not otherwise.
So even with us, even with us, there is an exchange with the Lord. Okay. It's not at that level, but there is exchange with the Lord. Okay, so this is a long purport and you have to read it a few times. But the main two things that Prabhupada writes is that why the spiritual spark is there. Because, yes, the controller has to have someone to control. The omnipotent Lord must have limited potencies to control. Okay. And then the second reason is for pleasure. There's variety of living entities, and that gives pleasure to the Lord. That's how the Lord also enjoys pleasure.
It's like that God has created us in this materially bounded form for a liberated. Because if we are liberated, how we can fall down? Then it is that. So there is a gap that God has created us, but when He has created, it is Anadikal
So we are created as a marginal potency. We are marginal.
as a living entity only.
Yes, so marginal potency. That means we can take the shelter of the internal potency, or we take the shelter of the external potency.
So can we say that we our place of residence is Mahavishnu's body always, since time immemorial? Mahavishnu, because Mahavishnu when
Yes, so within Mahavishnu reside all the conditioned living entities, right? And they come out, they go into his body at the time of destruction, and then when again there is creation, then they come back.
the Lord has created from the very beginning.
No, so now this point is very difficult to understand. At what point, Tatashta Shakti comes under the influence of the material energy? At what point? Because it's so, it's so way back that we don't know, how that actually, like, does it occur at this point, and how how the living entity comes under the influence of Maya. All we know is that the marginal potency is under the influence of Maya. Why? Because we are in this temporary world.
Our existence is question mark. It's like liberated soul.
No, our existence is not question mark. The question mark is, when exactly do we come under the influence of Maya?
So before that, are we liberated like our internal potency?
We are Tatashta Shakti. So some are liberated, some are not.
Where that is Shakti situated in the spiritual world? Is
So
it in the
now see
Mahavishnu
one,
body only?
see one thing is that we can't understand this with our conditioned mind. So let's not try it right now.
In
No.
simple words, Krishna created all the living entities, the souls.
So see,
to give pleasure.
even this point of creating, this also is not technically correct, because
Always existed.
we always existed with the Lord.
And
So
we were there in the spiritual world giving him pleasure. Some of us felt envy of him, and then we pushed it.
well,
That's how it is explained.
yeah, so that's one explanation.
So originally, the 75% who are already there, 25% we are here. The 1/4 creation, which is the material world.
Yes.
So we are the same spiritual beings who were there.
So different, devotees explain this in the different ways. Right. So some say that okay, we never fell. Right. Some say like from the very beginning. Now when is that beginning? It's eternal. Right from the beginning, certain jivas, because they're Tatashta Shakti, they're marginal, they came under the influence of the of the inferior energy, Maya. At what point that happened, it's very difficult to understand that.
Only by science also, time is an illusion, basically. Even past, present, future is an illusion created by mind. So everything is existing at the same time, as per science also. We are in an
There
illusion.
are multiple.
So there is no question of when it started. It is eternal.
So that's what I'm explaining. There are different ways to explain this. Okay.
Always debatable, never ending.
So the main thing that what I have understood, that we know that there is some serious conditioning that we are under. Right? There are many limitations that we exist under. Right? And no matter how hard we try, materially, we're not able to find a solution. So if there's fire in the house, instead of trying to keep figuring out, how did this fire come, and keep continuing to be, baked in it and, fried in it, just get out of it. Okay. Hmm.
You have come to a mango garden. There's lots of good mangoes all around. You just eat and enjoy the honey. Why you wanted to know who has created, how heavy it is, how small it is. You just have this prasad.
I also have a question for you. See, ultimately, we all need to develop love for God. So why do we? I still couldn't really figure out this. That why do we really need to get into know all these details in depth? Where are we coming from? How we actually came? See, ultimately, because what I really feel is at the time of deathbed, these things are not really going to impact us very strongly on our consciousness. What is more important? People are chanting around us. We could be able to remember Krishna, but are these things what we are actually reading right now? I don't know. Maybe this question seems very.
So how many of you agree with her?
I don't agree.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Because when Parikshit Maharaj had only 7 days to live, still he gone through all this understanding of why this creation happened.
Yeah.
Why this, so
These
why
are the two
he
questions
would have
that
also-
No, so
how to live and how to leave. These were the
So,
basic two questions. But then
see, what are we understanding over here?
we're just trying to understand.
No. What is exactly being explained here?
potency of Krishna.
We're just trying to understand that whatever what we are just a very minute particle of the.
So how is that helpful to understand that?
It's trying to make us more humble, trying to understand that we are actually nothing. Everything is coming out from Him only.
So is that helpful for your chanting? To have that understanding
But in
that we are
such a
tiny.
depth- But no, of course, this will really help us. But in such a depth, would it really be required?
Well, for some people the depth might not be required. Maybe some people are happy with the essence, but some people might want to know, okay, why are we created? Why is, how is the Lord omnipotent? And why does He create these living entities? So,
Probably why this question is very different person to me, because from the very beginning only, I've been taught by my mother only that Krishna is the supreme Lord. Like when I was very small.
so you're coming in with an advantage.
I could say that I already have that faith, that trust, that love for Krishna from the very beginning. So whenever I actually, whenever this has been taught there in the classes, I always feel that okay, I know that He's there. I know that He is the one.
So,
I know that He is the one to be.
Not everyone knows
It's
that.
a very personal question to me.
Yeah,
only.
so-
It's not
Actually, I had
applicable
asked
to
this similar question long time back to Prabhu, and he gave me same. Not everybody is at the same level.
Yeah. So that's why I said this is something.
No,
very
but see, whichever level we are in, right, it always helps to understand that the more clarity we have of our philosophy, it deepens our faith. So that's why in the beginning, Kaviraj Goswami says that Siddhanta bolite chitte na koriye alasa. So Siddhanta bolite chitte na koriye alas. Don't be lazy to understand. Then he says, Iha hoite Krishna lagi sudhrida manasa. So what happens? The more we are clear about the Siddhanta, Iha hoite Krishna lagi. That means towards Krishna, sudhrida manasa. That means like our mind becomes more and more firmly attached to Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay. So that's why Siddhanta is important. Because people will come, they will attack you. Are you are, you, me, and the Lord are the same. Then what will you say? Just chant Hare Krishna. Huh? So just see here, the Mayavadis are attacking, right? and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving a proper explanation based on Siddhanta. Okay. And this is very important, like to see the flow of how he is addressing the sannyasis. So he starts off very innocent way. Oh, I was a fool, my spiritual master saw me as a fool and he told me to chant Hare Krishna, and I chanted, and then I started experiencing these ecstatic symptoms. So I went to him and I told him, what have you given me? What kind of mantra you have given me? It has made me mad. It seems I'm losing my knowledge, my intelligence. So tell me what's going on, because it's making me mad. So then he said, oh, you are actually experiencing the highest fruit of this Mahamantra, which is prema. And when experiences prema, then all these symptoms manifest. He says, I'm so happy that. And so when the Mayavadis hear this, their hearts soften. They say, wow, we are very happy to hear that you have achieved the state of prema by chanting this Mahamantra. But we still have one doubt. Why don't you study Vedanta? And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains. He starts explaining what is the actual meaning of Vedanta. And this is in support of that. Because according to Mayavad philosophy, they interpret the Vedanta in a very indirect way. And as we have read that, and what we will read, is that they equate Lord and the living entity as one. Okay, there's no difference.
He's differentiating between
Yes,
the
he's
two.
differentiating. Now let's read 117. Jiva Tattva Shakti Krishna Tattva Shaktimana.
Jiva Tattva Shakti Krishna Tattva Shaktimana.
Gita Vishnu Puranadi Tahate Pramana.
Gita Vishnu Puranadi Tahate Pramana.
The living entities are energies, not the energetic. The energetic is Krishna. So Jiva Tattva is Shakti. Krishna Tattva Shaktiman. So he is the source of the Shakti, Shaktiman. And this is not his opinion. He says, where's the Praman coming from? The Gita, the Vishnu Puran, scriptures, Smritis. Now why does Prabhupada explains in this purport that usually the Mayavadis, they don't accept the Smritis. So there are three prashtan or evidences, right, or foundational philosophical paths. So he says that there are three prasthans on the path of advancement in spiritual knowledge, namely Nyaya Prasthan, which is the Vedanta, right, Shruti Prasthan, the Upanishads and the Vedic mantras, and Smriti Prasthan. Smriti is the realization of the great souls, of the great acharyas, like Narada Muni. Like Narad Muni, what's it called? Narad Bhakti, he has written the Bhakti Sutras, right? So, those are his deep realizations, those are Smritis. Now, then the Gita, it is, like say the Mahabharata, that is also Smriti. So Smriti Prashtan, the Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Puranas, unfortunately the Mayavad philosophers do not accept the Smriti Prashtan. Smriti refers to the conclusions drawn from the Vedic evidence. Now Prabhupada says, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives a reference of the Gita and he gives a reference of the Vishnu Purana. He says, if one believes in Vedic literature, one must accept all the Vedic literatures recognized by the great acharyas. But the Mayavadi philosophers accept only the Nyaya Prashthan and Shruti Prashthan, rejecting the Smriti Prashthan. Here, however, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cites evidence from the Gita, Vishnu Puran, which are Smriti Prashthan. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also asserting that these scriptures are also bona fide. That you should not be proud just you study the Nyaya and the Shruti Prashthan, but actually the Smritis are as valid because they're based on the evidence of Shruti and Nyaya Prashthan. So even within Smriti is what? It's all, there are certain stories of devotees, certain pastimes, but we all see that there is always, Nyaya, there's logic. It's not like they are illogical stories. A lot of logic is built into them, and they're all based on Vedic evidence. There's no conflict or contradiction with the Shruti. And now in the next two verses, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does is he just like Kaviraj Goswami does, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing the same thing. And all acharyas do the same thing. When they make a statement, then what do? They give a reference. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives a reference from the Gita. This is from the 7th chapter. And here Krishna is saying that besides, so what does Krishna do right before this verse? I think it's 7.4 and this is 7.5. You can just check. So just before this verse, Krishna, in the 7th chapter, he shares that what are his, energies. So first he starts with the material energy. Bhumi, he says earth, water, fire, air and sky, right? Ether. They are my, and then he also includes, the mind, intelligence and the false ego. So he says these 8 are my separated material energies. And then he quotes this verse. Then after that Krishna says this, that besides these inferior energies, he calls them inferior, right? Apareyam itistu anyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabhavo yayedam dharyate jagat. So he says, beyond these inferior energies, O mighty armed Arjun, there is another energy, superior energy of mind, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So the living entity is superior to the material energy. And why is that? Yes, it is it is conscious. And what is able to do with that ability? Can serve. No, but in relation to the material energy, how is it superior? Yes, it can control to some extent, to a great extent, but there are many things that ultimately sometimes are not under control. Some, like a great cyclone comes. So this tiny little entity can't control. Big earthquake comes, what happens? Are we able to control that? So yes, we're able to control to a great degree, but we cannot have ultimate control even of material energy. There's a big fire, you put your hand in it, and you say, no, I'm the controller. Just cool down. Is it going to listen?
That is inferior energy.
Yeah, so it is.
Energy is not able to control that.
So I'm saying we have some control. We have control. We can stay away from the fire. We can get things to put the fire out. So we have limited control, but we don't have ultimate control. The Lord has ultimate control of, the material energy. And ultimately, if we want to become free from the material energy, how will we overcome the material energy?
Take shelter of the Lord.
Taking shelter of the Lord.
Ma'ameva
Yeah, so we have to take complete shelter. When we take complete shelter of the Supreme Lord, then we are able to transcend the influence of the material energy. Yes. Devi hi esha gunamahi mama maya durattaya. Very difficult to overcome. Mamema ya prapadyante maya etam taranti te. So when we take shelter, when we surrender, then only we are able to, Krishna pulls us out of the influence of the material energy. So yes, we may be proud, we were creating so many different things, we are able to manipulate the material energy to a great degree, but ultimately we are not the ultimate controllers. And nature shows us, time to time. We create a big rocket and suddenly it goes and it just blows out. All the trillions or billions of dollars, I don't know how many they put in that. It just explodes. All the intelligence, everything, it just went up and it just exploded. It happens, it's happened so many times. And all this material so-called progress and control, ultimately we are back to basics. Live green, live simple, consume less. बस वही, full circle. सब कुछ try कर लिया, अब बचने के लिए क्या करना है? Yes, we become so cancer prone, so much pollution, so much, there is limited resources now. So if you really want to survive, and if you want this world to survive, then go back to real basics. And in this long purport, Prabhupada explains again that, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, the inferior energy known as Maya is so strong that although the living entity does not belong to this energy, due to the superior strength of the inferior energy, the living entity forgets his real position and identifies with it. So we may think we are controllers, but actually we are being controlled by this, even this inferior energy. We are being controlled by the three modes. Hare Krishna. Welcome. So when in contact with the material energy, this superior energy conducts all the activities of the entire material phenomenal world. The difference between them is that the superior energy is factual, whereas the inferior energy is a reflection of the superior. So what Prabhupada is explaining is that we are eternal. Even though we've come under the influence of the inferior energy. And inferior energy is what? Is it eternal?
That is a reflection of.
It is temporary. Okay.
Inferior energy is temporary.
Yes. Material world is temporary.
But we are getting controlled because it has a superior strength. Or
So-
we are getting influenced.
Yeah, we are becoming influenced by the inferior energy. And that also we have to understand whose energy is this inferior energy. This is also Krishna's energy. So the difference is that the superior energy is eternal, but the inferior energy is temporary. Although it appears to be factual, it is not. It is only a temporary reflection, whereas the spiritual world is a factual reality. The material world with its gross and subtle forms is merely a reflection of the spiritual world. The living entity is not a product of the material energy. He is spiritual energy, but in contact with matter, he forgets his identity. Okay, any confusion? Now Prabhupada says something very important. He says, the living entity should know that his only real concern is how to get free from the material contact. For by absorbing his mind in material activities, he takes material bodies again and again. And although he falsely claims to be very intelligent in material consciousness, he is not at all intelligent. And then Prabhupada says that this is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, which is to make people intelligent. And then in 119, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he quotes a verse from the Vishnu Puran, 6.7.61. And he says that the potency of Lord Vishnu is summarized in three categories. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyakhya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samgyanya Tritaya Shakti Ishyate. That means that the spiritual potency, there are three categories: the spiritual potency, the living entities, and Maya. The spiritual potency is full of knowledge. The living entities, although belonging to the spiritual potency, are subject to bewilderment. And the third energy, which is full of ignorance, is always visible in fruitive activities. So again, he's making it clear that it's not all one. So for Mayavadis, it's all one. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is repeatedly explaining that there is distinction. There is the energetic and there is the energy. And the energy is also of two types. One is the marginal energy and one is the material energy. Okay. And the material energy, it says, is always visible in fruitive activities. Whereas marginal energy sometimes engaged in fruitive activities and sometimes in transcendental activities. So Prabhupada again writes a very long purport to this, and he says the material potency is the energy of darkness, of complete ignorance of spiritual activities. In the material potency, the living entities engage themselves in fruitive activities, thinking that he can be happy through expansion in terms of material energy. And then Prabhupada says, in the age of Kali, we are trying so many different things. to try to be the controller, totally unaware of our spiritual identity. We think that we are products of the elements of the material world and that everything will end with the annihilation of the body. So therefore, as long as we have a body, what should we do? Yes. For materialists, it's like just eat, drink and be merry. Because ultimately what will happen to this body? It's material, so it will end. So before it ends, make full use of it. And what is their full use of it? No, sense gratification. Nacho Gao is for the devotee. Okay. He quotes, Charvak Muni towards 2/3 into the purport. He says his theory was, as long as one lives, one should eat as much ghee as possible. Just enjoy. That was the enjoyment, in those times. Just drink, eat as much ghee. One may say, I have no money. How shall I purchase ghee? Charvak Muni, however, says, if you have no money, then beg, borrow or steal. But in some way secure ghee and enjoy life. So Prabhupada quotes this verse a lot. Rinam kritva kritam prabit. So this verse by Charvak Muni, he quotes a lot in his lectures. This is the mentality of a materialist. Just eat, drink and be merry. Yes. Yes.
So opposite person is quoting Sanskrit verses that see this self gratification is highlighted in Shastras also. Why are you against this?
So what was your answer for that?
The answer is that Charvak is in every time there are personalities like you. It's not like that you are this world is free from the personalities like you. So, but there are the other ways also. You are quoting one thing. The Shastras are filled with so many others, so we have quoted other.
Yeah, so where in Gita you find that? Where do you find in the Bhagavatam? Where do you find these shlokas? Yeah, so there are some shlokas like that, but they're so little minute.
Actually, because everything written in Sanskrit is the
Authority. Yes. So Prabhupada says this is ignorance. From the Gita it is understood that one does not die with the annihilation of this body. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The annihilation of one body involves changing to another. Tata dehantra prapti. Therefore, now this is very important, to perform irresponsible activities in the material world is very dangerous. We must remember this. This is a very powerful line. That to be irresponsible in this material world is very dangerous. Without knowledge of the spirit soul and its transmigration, people are allured by the material energy to engage in many such activities as if one could become happy simply by the dint of material knowledge without reference to spiritual existence. Therefore, the entire material world and its activities are referred to avidya, karma, samgyana. And that's why the Lord comes to revive the original nature of spiritual activities. Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata. My dear living entities, give up all material activities and simply surrender unto me for protection. And then this is the last verse that we do today. Let's recite 120. Hena jiva tattva loya likhi para tattva.
Hena jiva tattva loya likhi para tattva.
Achana korila shrishta ishvara mahatva.
Achana karila shrishta ishvara mahatva.
The Mayavad philosophy is so degraded that it has taken the insignificant living entities to be the Lord, the supreme truth, thus covering the glory and the supremacy of the absolute truth with monoism. Should we go through this purport? Are you all ready?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Okay. So Prabhupada writes that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments in this connection that in all Vedic scriptures, the Jiva Tattva, the truth of living entities, is mentioned to be one of the energies of the Lord. So all the scriptures state what? That we are one of the energies of the Lord. If one does not accept the living entity to be a minute, infinitesimal spark of the Supreme, but equates the Jiva Tattva with the Supreme Brahman or Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is to be understood that his entire philosophy is based on a misunderstanding. And unfortunately, what has Sripad Sankaracharya done? He has claimed that the Jiva Tattva or the living entities to be equal to the Supreme Lord. And this, Prabhupada says, is that this philosophy is based on a misunderstanding. And what does it do? Because it's based on misunderstanding, it misguides people to become atheists whose mission in life is unfulfilled. So this we discussed, that how do they become atheists? What is it? Why does Prabhupada say that they have a tendency to become atheists? So
they are denying the existence of God itself, like within.
But how are they denying?
Putting everyone on the same platform.
themselves as
God.
equivalent to God.
So there is no difference. Everybody is same. Here and God are same. So why will accept anybody as authority? And so that
They're
will
not
create,
rather considering anyone as
atheism.
authority.
Yes. So in that sense, they're
They are considering
atheists,
themselves-
because they're thinking they're also God,
They are also God.
and God is God, and we also God. So everyone
We
is
are the
God.
only authority.
Okay. So the Mayavad philosophy misleads one to defy the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and pose oneself as a Supreme Lord. Thus it has misguided hundreds and thousands of innocent men.
People who believe in this, they feel so proud of it.
Yes.
I am the master.
I have people in my groups, I could say.
It is to counteract these abominable activities of the Mayavadi philosophers that the Lord Chaitanya introduced the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalo nasti, eva nasti, eva nasti, eva gatir anyatha. And then Prabhupada writes something very amazing. He says, people should simply engage in chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, what you said in the beginning. For thus they will gradually come to understand that they are not the Supreme Personality of Godhead as they have been taught by the Mayavadi philosophers, but are eternal servants of the Lord. And as soon as one engages himself in the transcendental service of the Lord, he becomes free. Okay, he quotes Bhagavad Gita 14.26. And he concludes this purport. Prabhupada says, therefore the Hare Krishna movement or the Krishna consciousness movement is the only light for the foolish living entities who think either that there is no God or that if God exists, he is formless and they themselves are also God. These misconceptions are very dangerous. And the only way to counteract them is to spread the Hare Krishna movement. So this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Jivere Swarup hoy, Krishnera Nitya dāsā. Krishnera tatashta Shakti, Bhed Bhed Prakash. That we are not equal to the Lord, but we are tiny fragments of the Supreme Lord. Right? We are one and yet different with the Supreme Lord.
Just one question. In the purport, Prabhupada writes in this same purport, unfortunately, Sripad Shankaracharya purposely changed. But हमने पहले पढ़ा ना, because Shankaracharya did it under the instructions of the Lord only.
Yes.
So why Prabhupada is writing unfortunately?
So it's unfortunate.
Krishna gave that instruction. This is unfortunate.
No, unfortunately, this had to take place. It would have better if it didn't take place, but due to whatever circumstances, the Lord's desire. In one sense, see, you have to understand that it's not that Prabhupada is saying, why this happened, unfortunately, it shouldn't have happened. But he's saying with that bhav that, that because it's misleading people, that's why it's unfortunate. But ultimately it is the will of the Lord, and Prabhupada also explain, he accepts that. And then he says, that's why, let us keep expanding this movement. But obviously it has created an unfortunate situation for many people, right? Even spiritual seekers, because they get hung up on this point that, God and I are one. Yes. But still they lose a lot of time. For a Vaishnava to witness that, to see that for such a long time they will be denied their close relationship with the Lord. That's painful for a Vaishnava. Yes.
Is that correct that Prabhupada at times says that Mayavadi is an atheist?
Yeah, in that sense. So he in some sense he says that because like he equates them with the atheists, and sometimes he says, yeah, it's better to deny God than say that we are also indirectly denying God, saying that we are one. So their atheists are directly denying God, and we are indirectly denying God. The Mayavadis. So then he says, yes, in a roundabout way, they have all these things, all this, different shlokas and all, but at the end of the day, they're also denying. Yes. And they're making people believe that they are God. Okay. So in that sense, they're worse. At least atheists say, okay, there's no God. We are not God, there's no God, nothing. But here they're saying no. No, we are like taking a conditioned soul to say that okay, we are also like God. So that's even worse in that sense. But don't take that literally, because Mayavadis, even in some of the Bhagavatam purports, Prabhupada says we should respect them because they are also spiritual seekers. Okay, so there's a balance. So we see both points. So we take it into context. Okay, we don't say, oh, okay, better everyone become atheists than. So, yes, this is a subtle point.
Prabhuji, there is this question where you just explained that Mahaprabhu has, quoted like these Vedanta, Mayavadis, they only understood through the Nyaya Prasthana and through the Shruti Prasthana. They don't really relate with the Smriti. But then Mahaprabhu was trying to make them understand philosophy through Smriti only, not through Shruti and through Nyaya. So how could they could be able to understand that, or they could accept it, because ultimately it was nothing for them. But Mahaprabhu was giving reference only through the Smriti Shastra.
No, here he gives a reference, but as we go, see, Smriti is not the references he's giving, right? What is he doing? They don't conflict the other prasthans. Okay, so what he's doing is he's giving references that he's giving references to also establish the authority of the Smriti. Right? And he will do that. You will see, he's just started. Right? And now he will show that how Shankaracharya has, you could say, his explanation is in conflict with what Vyasadeva has given.
Is in conflict. So any which ways they are not going to accept the fact that Smriti Shastra is okay, because it is conflicting. If somewhere Shankaracharya would have been coming to the point where it relates to the Smriti Shastra, then they could understand कि Shankaracharya ने भी indirectly यही बोला है जो Smriti Shastra में है. But here you said that it's conflicting. So
no, it's not. He is going to show, right, that what Shankaracharya has explained, the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra that he has given, that is not in alignment with what Vyasadeva is writing. Okay.
Okay. Vedanta Sutra, which was written by Vyasadeva, is
Yes.
not in alignment with what Shankaracharya is saying.
Yes.
And though he's saying that whatever I'm talking is all about Vedanta.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's going to show that. Okay.
And there will be one more question. I said, no, there's a follow-up question. He said that if Krishna is Lord himself, but the question is that if Krishna is Lord himself, then why would he create it so simply so that he could exert his supremacy or authority over this? If he is God himself, he is Lord himself, why he still wants to create that supremacy among all of us, that I am the Supreme Lord?
So,
Then
what if we say that God is all powerful? Right? So, what does that mean? That he should have the power to create unlimited power and limited power. So, if there's no limited power, then we are limiting his ability. So then, when he creates limited power, the limited power is automatically controlled by the unlimited. Not that, okay, he wants to be the controller and he has to create. His thing is to enjoy.
Acha. So being complete, he has to be unlimited as well as limited as well.
Yes.
Being limited, he created all our jivas, and then to establish that supremacy, he
So that automatically his supremacy is established, right? Because he's unlimited.
right. Okay. Understood.
To showcase that he is omnipotent also.
Yes. So omnipotent means he should have the ability to create limited and unlimited. So this section is a little, yes, so we have unfortunately two more sessions, because the next part gets even more philosophical.
So the entire chapter is 7.
No, just another 10 verses. But just to get through these 10-15 verses, there are such long purports, you can see. So many philosophical points. So to be able to understand them properly, it takes an hour discussion, and then so many questions are coming, so many doubts are coming. Hare Krishna Mataji, welcome. So what's the main takeaway? All this discussion, what's the main takeaway? So, yes, just saying Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Yes.
We've been controlled by him. We all are being controlled by him. Everything is coming from him. And this is the crux what we read in today's class.
I guess we are even controlled by the inferior energy.
Which is ultimately controlled by Krishna himself. And we are part
What's your name? Parth. So what was your key takeaway?
That Krishna is omnipotent and he has created us small souls to make his power unlimited, and we are the limited.
And also to one more purpose why he created? For pleasure, right? To have an exchange. So there were lots of living entities, and he can exchange unlimitedly with them. So because his form is Anandamaya Bhyasa, is full of pleasure, so he exerts his pleasure potency by, what does he do? So to have all this, so many living entities to interact with and enjoy pleasure with.
Back to basics.
Yes, back to basics. And we may have to go some acute form of back to basics. If things don't resolve in this world the way things are going, where it's going to head, only the Lord knows. I mean, like some of the predictions people make are quite scary. What's coming ahead for all of us? If that actually happens, my God, we better get serious. So maybe, the Lord may spare us of that, acute misery. But who knows what is in, what our fate is and what our karma is.
Srila Prabhupada has already assured all of us that whosoever is in this moment, so within less than 10,000 years, those people will come back to
No, 10,000 years is
I know
this is the golden period, you could say. Okay, but it doesn't mean that everyone within this 10,000.
He himself said that whosoever comes into this moment only, I assure you that before 10,000 years, I will take all of you back home back to God.
Yeah, but for that we have.
Because we know we are just not being able to do anything. It's only that by the mercy of
No,
Srila
but
Prabhupada that
we have to. We shouldn't just assume that sab ho jayega. Just because we are in the movement, the question is, are we really in the movement or not in the movement? And what are we in for the for what purpose are we here, and are we actually executing that purpose? What is our motive of being in the movement? And what is the motive of our endeavors? So how serious and how sincere we are. So if Krishna sees, yes, we are sincere, we are serious, and yet we are, struggling, then maybe He is the Lord. He can do anything he wants. He can take everyone back. He can even take the sinners back. That's his choice. We can't hold him to the gun that no, he was not chanting, I was chanting. But it's his, his Aituki Kripa. He can take anyone back.
That is the only hope
Yes.
we have.
So our hope is that we increase our attachment for Krishna, and that is only possible. We will, in the next chapter, we will learn is that if you don't have attachment for Lord Chaitanya, and for Sri Gaur Nitai, for Lord Nityananda, then our hope to become attached to Krishna is basically very little. So next chapter has some powerful verses on that. Yeah. Any other questions?
This thing, we have this, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Prabhu, Agar if you look at the Guptas and other families, those are into Krishna worship from the very childhood. So they directly worship Krishna only. So Gaudiya Vaishnavas only.
They are not Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
Yeah, so they're worshipping Krishna definitely. There's no doubt that they have attachment to the Lord. But to achieve this kind of, like you could say that completely pure, unmotivated love for Krishna that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached. So I don't know, to what extent that their desire is to attain that state. Because there are many people who worship many forms of the Lord, but what is their desire in that worship, or what is the motive? Is it to just completely surrender without any material desire? Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings are very evolved spiritual teachings. Whereas we see many people, they worship God. We also worship God before, but we didn't worship God with this kind of understanding and this kind of clarity and in this kind of purpose. We worship God like, I prayed a lot, but I never prayed that God, let me love you without any motive. What about you, Prabhu? Before you came to Krishna consciousness?
So Prabhu, right from the childhood we have been told you have to just worship God, don't expect anything, don't ask anything. Whatever is in your fate, you will get it. So right from our childhood, we have never been पैसे के लिए करना है, ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए. Like that's the education.
So you got the right type of training, huh? But after coming to Krishna consciousness, do you have more clarity about the goal, about the purpose, the process? Huh?
Certainly, this is more, process oriented, and this is there. That of course is there. But from an end objective perspective, that is what we were always.
So even the end goal, to attain that level of consciousness where we are engaged with Krishna and the four primary rasas. So I don't know if that clarity was there. Was that there?
Not to that extent. See,
So,
but that my mother had that clarity. She
so
has been there. Like she.
Your mother will certainly have that but in general, like as we keep coming down, so then the prayers. So he was forced because he has mother, like inclined towards devotional service and completely so dedicated. But not all of us are so fortunate. We are fortunate in the sense we were given this faith in God. Right? But that faith in God also had a lot of, you could say, a lot of desires, like a fulfillment of our desires. There's, great person, but mostly our relationship is in asking him for favors. So this has given us a complete different understanding of God, who's a person with so many abilities, so attractive, keeps coming, to attract us back. So such a highly evolved, theology that is there.
Guruji, I've been worshipping Krishna since the very beginning, but how to please Krishna? I always wanted to be pleased by Krishna, but then how to please him and what is the way to do it? How to make a very strong and eternal relationship with him? And what are the ways to do it? This all we get to know through this.
Yes. So Hare Krishna devotees online, do you have any questions or realizations you'd like to share?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Saurabh Prabhu, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Which part of the
Prabhu,
world are you in today?
Prabhu, I came to my hometown, my native, Ratlam.
Where is that?
It's in MP, near
MP,
to
okay.
Indore. Yeah, it's like 120 kilometers from Indore, Prabhu. Prabhu, I have a very small question. Uh, uh, in Inception, we are being, or I was being made an understanding of that we came to this world because we got jealous of Lord. And then Lord gave us uh, uh, our will to come to this world and to enjoy this world. But in today's verse, the first thing we got an understanding is that Krishna made us to enjoy and to be the supreme power. I got little bit confused there. So if you can.
Yes, so the original purpose is that. But then because we have free will, we are Tatashta Shakti, so we also have that freedom to come under the influence of the external energy. Just like, ultimately our relationship with God is one of love. And for love, there has to be freedom. So that's why we are Tatashta Shakti. We are marginal potency. That means we could go either way.
Okay. But
So,
did God give us our will and hence we are here, or he wanted to be the supreme enjoyer and wanted to command us and hence we are here?
no, that's not the right understanding. The first one is that He gave us the will.
Okay, okay, fine.
It's not that the Lord pushed us into the material world and said, okay, now I need some people to control. No, no, it's not like that.
Okay, got it. No, I'm clear then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Very good.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I
Namaste.
think I pretty much had the same confusion as Saurabh Prabhu mentioned, but I'm still not very clear because the first verse that we discussed today, it says that the living entities are like small sparks of that fire, and what it truly means is, as described in the purport, is that we are the living entities, and because we are the living entities, that means we belong to this material world, right? How can someone be a living entity in the spiritual world? That part I'm not very sure,
So the
Prabhuji.
soul is eternal. Soul is eternal. Okay, now the soul is under the influence of the material energy right now, but it doesn't have to be permanently remain under the. We have this body. Why? Because we are under the influence of the material energy. The moment we become free from the influence of the material energy, we will transcend this body, and we will not have to take these material forms. Okay, so when the eternal soul takes shelter of the inferior energy or Maya, then we become covered by a temporary form. We have to take on these temporary forms life after life. Okay. But when we become free from the influence of the material energy, then we get a spiritual form. The
Yeah,
soul gets its original spiritual form.
I completely understand, Prabhuji. There is no second thought about it because that is what we have heard so far in
Yes.
our
There's
journey
your
here.
confusion.
Yeah, the confusion is because when it is written that the Lord is omnipotent, so he's exhibiting both the unlimited and the limited potencies, and the limited potency is like creating these living entities.
No, so the limited potency is the living entity. Okay, so we are limited
Yeah, we
conscious
are the
entities, right? And the Lord is unlimited conscious entity. The Lord is ever expanding. He's unlimited, eh, you know. So what's the difference between the Lord and us? The Lord is unlimited, we are limited. And the unlimited should have the capability to produce something that is limited. Then
agreed.
then they are omnipotent, they're all powerful. Because not only they can create, unlimited being, but they can also create limited being.
Yeah,
Okay? So they must have the capacity for both.
yeah, but sorry, bro, I'm still one part is not very clear. Like when this thing originally happened.
Yeah, so this will never be clear.
Yeah, because like Saurabh Prabhu
Because
mentioned, I also
because
had a
at
different
what
understanding.
point it happened, right? Because we're eternal living entities, we're all eternal, God is eternal. So to trace it back to a point of creation, that when this limited energy got created, just like Prabhupada gives the sun and the sun rays, how do you separate that? You can't separate it, no. But the sun rays can be covered by a cloud. Yes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that means there's a temporary covering. So there's a temporary covering on the tiny rays of the sun. But can the clouds cover the sun completely?
No.
They can't. Right? But the tiny rays, they cover to some extent.
Yes, Prabhu. Got it. Yeah. I think then further to it, I think it doesn't really matter because this whole science, even if we want to, like you said, we won't be able to understand.
So we
But
will be able to
one thing which,
understand, but we have to, uh, you know, we have to get to that level. At a certain time, Krishna will reveal to us.
yeah. And that is what I was coming to. I think after that, it is so very reassuring that the Lord is loving us like children, and He's
Yes.
so very caring for us, and He sees us in this bad situation, and He's always willing to take us back. I think that is what we need to realize and then work towards the complete surrender and offering the selfless service to Him. I think that should be the way forward for the living entities.
So the main takeaway should be God is great, He is Vibhu, we are small, we are Anu. And that the more we take shelter of the great, then what will happen? What will happen? The more we take shelter, the more we will become free from this influence of this material energy. That is ultimately giving us so much trouble. This is what the scriptures keep trying to make us understand. You think you're having a good time, you have this body, you're enjoying. Yes, you are enjoying, but what you're enjoying is very temporary. And ultimately, you cannot enjoy this forever. It'll be taken away. This is all temporary. Get that. Because you are eternal. Why are you getting into this temporary business? Why are you getting into this temporary mess? And you are denying your soul, yourself, the real potential of the soul. Our real potential is 78% God. My God, you know what that potential means? When we hear about God and, expanding and this and that and doing so many things, imagine the soul has 78% of that potential. The jiva, the perfected jiva, has 78% of the potential of God. I mean, it's mind boggling. And look what we are doing. We are in this temporary body, running after temporary pleasures and getting kicked in all forms. So much, misery. How difficult it is to even maintain one family today, peacefully and happily. So difficult. We're struggling. This is what the Gita explains. We are struggling with our mind and these five senses. Prakriti stani karsati. Shastani indriyani. Mana shastani indriyani. Prakriti stani karshati. That means we are struggling. This jiva, even though Krishna is saying, Mame amsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sana, this eternally living entity, my amsa, now struggling in this world with this mind and the five senses. And scriptures, through so many different, through logic, through stories, through all this. Look at Hiranyakashipu, how he, how powerful he was, how much enjoyment he had, but yet what happened? His end came. He suffered. Look at Ravan. No matter how much you're powerful in this world, what will happen? You try to enjoy apart from the Lord. At the end, there's only suffering. So scriptures keep reminding us that this material world is not the place for a gentleman or a gentle lady. And work on your true potential. 78%. That's our real potential. To become free, imagine becoming free from the influence of the three modes. Right now, even the biggest leaders, they're controlled by the material energy. When we read the history of so many these powerful people, how they fall, repeatedly.
And create problems for others.
Yeah, creates so much problems. Okay. So this, if we get this, that this tiny soul, our Father is so great, and He wants us to realize our true potential, and let us take His help. Let us take, the real shelter. Then all these, crazy leaders who are just selling us completely illusory propaganda and schemes, and it should never be. Durashaya ye bahirartha manina andha yatha andhe. It's like blind leading the blind into a well. If we just analyze life, how, what's going on in the world through the eyes of the Shastra, it becomes so clear. More and more it will become clear. The more, this is why we chant, so that this whole ignorance is removed from, this veil of Maya is removed from our real vision. Okay, so thank you all very much. Let us take Lord Chaitanya's shelter to and the wonderful process he has given, the chanting of the holy names, and realize our true potential. Thank you so much, Saurabh Prabhu. Thank you so much, Vishaka Mataji, Madhuri Gopi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dharat Pranam.
Dhanyavad. Sundar Kanai Prabhu, Hari Bol, Jammu mein. All okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, I am feeling the effects of Mayavadi because Shankaracharya ji is here, na? Srinagar. So there's a lot of influence here. Lot of influence here.
Okay.
So,
Don't worry. You have your beat bag, you know.
yeah, I have. No, I'm looking at the other people, as a third person. So they are engrossed into all these things. I am God and all these, Devi Devta and all. A lot of things are going on.
Thank you so much
Hare Krishna.
for
Thank
this
you so much.
wonderful recap you did. It's a masterpiece that you created. Wonderful.
I'm
Yes.
just trying to, yeah. Thank you. That
Creative,
that is that
creative
was initially
masterpiece.
created for my recap of the lecture, but I thought if it helps others also, it is good to
Yes,
share.
yes, definitely. It is helping all of us.
Yeah,
Those who are accessing it.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Thank
I
you
think
all.
that's the best use of
Shana
AI.
Mataji, Hare Krishna, thank you. Saurabh Prabhu, thank you. Vandana Mataji, and Amit Prabhu, thank you. Madhuri,
Thank you,
Thank you very
Prabhu.
much, Prabhu.
Hare
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 Krishna.
Krishna.
Dandavat pranam.
Krishna.
Dandavat pranam, Prabhu.
That's a masterpiece.
Huh?
It's a masterpiece.
Yes,
Should be printed and can be circulated.
yes, yes.